Yes, this is Ingram. We're in my living room, a house I've lived in for 40 years as of December 10th, 2009. My guests are David Hancock, Hancock Publishers, Hancock House Publishers, Hancock Wildlife, and his left-hand lady, Karen Karen Bills. I've been looking at her. She looks like Bliss, so Bills. Give it a try here, Ingram. And we're talking about eagles. We're talking about wildlife. We've talked about the viral incubators in the Fraser Valley. We want to remind you that there's an Eagle Festival going on this next Saturday and Sunday. That's November 21st and November 22nd at the Harrison and the Chehalis, and I guess it's Mission to Harrison, eh? Not about the size of it?
Nope, they don't charge.
No charge, but Mission to Harrison is about where you can see stuff.
Oh, not admission.
No, Mission.
Right.
The town of Mission.
The town of Mission. But the actual eagle viewing really starts at Desroche, where you start to go along the Nickaman Slough, or the Nickaman Slough before you get to Desroche. And then you pick up the real big numbers of eagles once you get to Harrison Bay, which is on your south side of Highway 7. And the way there, it's about 60 miles east.
Well, it's an easy drive.
It's an easy drive, and a beautiful drive. And as soon as you cross on Highway 7, the Harrison River, you go over it. You look north as you're crossing the river.
That's where
and
you're
that is where you see the Great Chehalis
That's
Flat.
the bridge where your old friend Green did the Sasquatch suit and the Greyhound bus going by. Remember?
Well, I remember an incident, but we were not going there. But I didn't
realize. You published
realize
a whole bunch of books.
Well,
on
I did.
Sasquatch.
I published 20 books.
So you know as much about Sasquatch as anything else. So we could talk about, since you brought up the Harrison River and Highway 7. Now, the old mayor of Harrison, he did a publicity stunt, and wasn't that where he did it?
No. No, you're confusing a whole bunch of issues. That's why I didn't want to go there. 'Cause right off the bat, you set the wrong scene.
Oh, I did. Well, then, what's the right scene?
The right scene is on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have a great gathering of people at the Harrison and the Chehalis to look at eagles. But there's a lot of other events other than just looking at the eagles. There's a whole bunch of people giving talks. There'll be talks on mushrooms and amphibians and fish and eagles. There's all sorts of displays. Every major conservation organization will be at the La Camel Hall. This is the big Indian Hall, just a little bit to the west of the Harrison River Bridge. And many places, the fish hatcheries, tree farms, many places in the area are all open, and they're listed on our Bald Eagle. And I should have brought one in here, and I forgot. Our Bald Eagle Festival calendar. It's a really nice publication, and they're all free around the flats. And they list the 14 or 16 different sites from which there's something specifically to be seen. Everything from herons at a big heronry area to seeing eagles at about 4 or 5 different places along the Harrison.
Of course, the best talk to go to is 1 o'clock at the Tropicana Resort.
Well, it's one of them.
And that's where you're going to be talking Saturday and Sunday.
This year,
the only thing wrong with that is there's not enough room in it. You got to get there early to get a seat.
Well, you got to get there early. And the other interesting element this year, Joanne and Rob Chadwick, who own Fraser River Safaris, that's a tour boat, have joined with us. And so all during the time of the festival, on both Saturday and Sunday, every hour, they're going to run a festival tour up the side of the Harrison to look at these eagles more closely. Yeah, that's kind of neat. I'm going on the 10 o'clock boat both days, but I know that's already pre-sold out. So it'll be the 11, 12, and 1 o'clock, whatever one they can get on. But the first 2 every day are already sold out. And the boat holds about 22 people. So we expect a good turn. I mean, some years we've had up to 3,500 people come. So it's quite an event. Well, I mean, this gathering, I probably said it to start with, but it's worth saying again. This gathering of birds of prey is the largest gathering of a raptorial bird anywhere in the world. I mean, we think of the great predators of the Serengeti. Nowhere do you get 2,500 eagles in a square mile, or any raptor, vultures, or what. This is a great resource because there is so much food there. All these thousands of dead salmon, and some cases, I mean, it was about 4 years ago. We actually had a late run of I think they were chums or they were pinks. I can't remember which they were that came in. But embarrassingly, there was about 9 million never touched by the fishermen. Came through all the areas they didn't even know they were coming in, and all of a sudden 9 million extra fish hit the Harrison. And there was dead salmon. You could literally walk across that river because so many got through. Now, that's a few years ago now. The likelihood of having another year like that seems to get more and more remote as river after river along the BC coast seems to be having catastrophic returns, meaning minimal or no fish coming back. And that doesn't bode well for our total ecology and doesn't bode well for our survival.
Well, if we got all these wonderful fish farms out there because of the fish farm and the sea lice?
Well, that's certainly one of the major contributing factors to disasters in the Pacific Ocean. But there's others that are longer building up, and that's been the last 50 years have done, well, really longer, but 50 years, 60 years since we've been putting pesticides in particular. But it's all contaminants. And we keep coming up with new things, new chemicals that are devastating to the wild. I mean, flame retardants are now one of the things that wash off all our clothing, and they go into the system. Everything on the continent ends up in one of the oceans of the world.
Every time you take a Scotchgard thing and spray it on something, at some point or other, it's going to end
all
up
the chemicals that are in there are going to end up in the sea. And whether it's the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, it's the garbage retainer for all of these solubles.
You know what you should do next summer?
Well, I know what I'm going to do next summer. What should I do?
You should drift down the Mackenzie River again and see
again.
what it looks like. I know, but you should do it again now, 40 years later, to see what you think about its contaminants and so on, because that's what you do.
Well, I'm going to be on the Diamond Princess for 7 weeks. It's the longest I've ever been on. But the Diamond Princess is my favorite boat of all the cruise ships, and so I'm going on as the naturalist. Funny enough, don't tell them. Keep this quiet, but the silly people actually pay me to go on the Diamond Princess. Yeah, it's the only time I get paid in my entire life to do anything. and they pay me to go on it, and so I get to talk about all these great resources and marvelous places that we have up and down the coast.
In another part of the segment, Karen talked about the reaction of the audience, the people on the boat, to what you teach. I mean,
well, teach. I talk about it. Yeah.
Talk about it. Well,
I try to make them aware of what's out there.
David, you know that I know a lot of people, and I have traveled with a lot of people and been to a lot of places, and there is nothing more edifying in a person's life, as far as I'm concerned, than the trips that you and I took to Alaska a couple of times and up to Canoe Mountain and all the rest of that stuff, because traveling with you is just a plethora of information. There isn't anything that you don't know about a little bit.
Or that I might not make up.
Well, well, I mean, I still remember the LBJ, and I'll tell that story.